Talk about a noir ending. Harry Fabian is so wretched, his only hope for redemption is in letting himself be killed. For me, it's one of the bleakest and most satisfying finishes in film noir. After Jules Dassin wrapped production on Night in the City, the film was shipped back to Hollywood, but Dassin never returned. Rather than risk being blacklisted for refusing to testify before HUAC, he stayed in Europe, drifting around the continent trying to get work as a director. At every opportunity, however, either the U.S. State Department or various Hollywood studios scared away potential employers from hiring him. In 1954, French director Jean-Pierre Melville, who'd been scheduled to direct a caper film being made in Paris, told the producers to use Dassin instead, even though he hadn't worked in 4 years. And Dassin, desperate as he was to work, came cheap. He rewrote the script, directed the film, and appeared in it as an Italian safecracker. Rififi would be hailed internationally as one of the greatest caper movies of all time. It won Dassin the Best Director Award at the 1955 Cannes Film Festival, but more importantly, that's where he met actress Melina Mercouri, with whom he'd spend the rest of her life, as well as directing her in several classic films. Dassin returned to America briefly in the 1970s, but for most of his life, he lived in Greece, his wife's native country. 2 different versions of Night in the City were released in 1950, one for the British market, another for American audiences. The U.S. version, which you just saw, is actually 6 minutes shorter and features an entirely different score. Composer Benjamin Frankel wrote the music heard in England, a version that also features a couple of additional scenes and lots more ambient background music, including familiar tunes by Cole Porter, which Dassin used to bolster the notion of the displaced American in London. Fox didn't want to pay for the rights to those songs, however, and they were removed from the U.S. cut. Not that anything is lacking in Franz Waxman's frantic and fantastic U.S. score, which gives the film propulsive energy right from its amazing opening. A few years ago, I had the privilege of seeing the film's original cut, which is archived at the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. It is strikingly different from both released versions. For one, there's a prelude and a coda showing scenes of bridge workers coming and going from their daily shifts. The first scene between Harry and Mary is entirely different, longer but not as focused, and there's more screen time given to Helen and Phil Nosseris, including a scene in which Helen learns, after her husband's death, that he's bequeathed all his money to Molly, the flower lady, played by Ada Reeve. Actress Googie Withers, who played Helen, was one of the most popular actresses in England during the 40s and 50s. She'd been making pictures since 1935, when director Michael Powell pulled her out of a crowd of extras to take over a plum role in his film The Girl in the Crowd. She never looked back, appearing in such popular hits as The Lady Vanishes, One of Our Aircraft is Missing, and Dead of Night. As she matured, Withers' unique persona resonated with post-war British audiences. She came across as a common woman, but one with uncommon sex appeal. Nowhere did that come across more strongly than in the 1947 classic It Always Rains on Sunday, where she plays a harried housewife hiding a former lover, an escaped convict, in a ramshackle Coldwater flat right under her family's noses. Withers kept acting throughout her life, last appearing opposite Oscar winner Geoffrey Rush in the 1996 film Shine. And I can't sign off without mentioning the amazing work of Stanislas Zabisco and Mike Mazurki, who played Gregorius and the Strangler. Mazurki was a professional wrestler turned actor who had a long career in pictures, but this was Zabisco's only movie role. He was an actual wrestler who Dassin had seen as a kid in New York. The impromptu battle in the empty gym is one of the most evocative and grueling fight scenes in movie history. Okay, keep the conversation going by checking in at Noir Alley on Facebook and Twitter. Next week, I'll be back on American soil, specifically the mean streets of New York, for a suspenseful yarn torn from the pages of Aesop's Fables. It's The Window from 1949. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna stop running me north and south and get myself a glass of the gay and frisky.